Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a sunny day here as well, Brett, so that's always fun. Maybe we're sharing between Pennsylvania and Maryland. We've got the sunshine sharing. I appreciate you showing up early and on time. Let me just start my thing. And for those of you who got here super early with me starting the live, I never like to start late. And I came in, I was like, oh no, it's a little late. And then I realized I was like 3 minutes early. But it's good to see we got people showing up. We're going to get rocking and rolling. I might say this again towards the end of the training, but I'm going to start getting in the habit of, and let me just turn my captions off. So I've got that all good to go. Okay. Just letting you know, those of you showing up early in time here, that I'm going to start getting in the habit of right at 12 o'clock, I'm going right in. For the longest time, for several years, I used to have little interesting information, tips, or whatever, frankly, to give people time to show up. But I do this every day at noon. So I use up like 5 minutes trying to just dance around. But from this point forward, I guess from tomorrow forward, since I'm talking at the moment, right at 12, I'm going to come on and I'm going to dive straight into the training. The training is really predictable, 12 to 12:30. I want to be predictable for you in that sense so that you put it on your calendar and you know I start right on time and you know I'll end right at 12:30. Okay, just as a reminder, engage in the chat with other people. I get this all the time where people are meeting each other in my trainings or different events I do, and they go away and they create their own relationship, have their own activities, which is awesome. And that's one of the advantages. One of the things I like being able to enable for you out there. Okay, let's get diving into today's training. So today I want to talk about, oh, by the way, happy St. Patrick's Day for everybody who's out there. If you're wondering why I'm not wearing green, because it runs through my blood. You know, you cut me and I'll bleed green, but otherwise I just don't happen to be a green. I don't think a single thing that's green. But happy St. Patrick's Day to all of us on March 17th. We're all Irish at that point. Okay, let's get talking. I'm going to go down and talk about teaming. This is a really important thing for me. I've known this and done this successfully in my career, and I've been teaching it for many, many years. But the idea is that teaming is so important to success in government contracting, right? Sometimes we feel like if we win a contract, then somebody else is going to lose. Or if I am building a team, right, the team can only do so much because it's such a small contract. We call this a zero-sum game where you think that if somebody wins, somebody else has to lose. And that's not the case, right? That's a really self-defeating way of looking at it. An example is if you think about a 5% set aside in the federal market to women-owned small businesses, you know, I say phooey to that, right? Getting really violent and bad with my words, phooey. I say that's screwed up. Let's go get 10% or 25% of the federal contracting dollars for women-owned small businesses, right? Don't think small, think bigger. One of the biggest challenges we sometimes have as small businesses is we think this is our pie and this is where we have to be. And the largest and everybody else has all this. And we've got to keep divvying this up. It's like, no, we don't. Let's just make a bigger pie. And so you might be looking at $1 million opportunity. We'll look at a $10 million opportunity. Look at a $100 million opportunity, right? In order to have somebody prime contract, you need them to be at a certain level that they can go after a $100 million contract. But you can team up with many smalls. In particular, if you do similarly situated entities, it enables you to have more people participating in that 51% share. And maybe you bring in some larger primes if you need to, if you're going on a big contract. But the idea is don't think that you have to split up a teeny pie. Make more pies or make bigger pies, and you'll be able to help everybody, including yourself, have success. I did this in my last company, right? I've done it in both companies that I've had, but my last company, I did it in particular. More than 50% of my revenue came from subcontracting. I was under somebody else, right? And that was beautiful. That was exactly the type of stuff I wanted because it got me into different agencies, et cetera. I would say 90% of the business that I did, the contracts that I participated on in my last company, 90% of them had a teaming partner. Either I had a prime contractor or I had a subcontractor, but rarely did I ever go it alone. I don't believe in going it alone. right? If you got a $3,000 micro purchase, that's a whole different situation. But when I was in my last company, none of my contracts were less than $1 million, right? They were all IT service based. And so they were bigger. Well, I always wanted to find teammate partners. Teammate partners allows you to build relationships. And if you don't know this, inside the federal government, they look for that and actually measure us sometimes on, do you have teaming partners that you have worked with before? So if you're going to team on a bigger opportunity, they want to know that this is not the first time you're dating, that you've had contracts before together and you've done good work together. I point out another example here of just teaming. I had a huge contract that we picked up that was enterprise architecture. It wasn't even our sweet spot. If you've been to my previous training, you know my last company was Microsoft SharePoint focused. But we saw a way to do what they wanted using SharePoint. We just had no real expertise around enterprise architecture. So we teamed up with a subcontractor who had that expertise. They were the subject matter expertise, PhD in enterprise architecture. And it was awesome. And my point for saying these kind of stories is to remind you that teaming is your path to success. If you don't team, you will limit your success. If you team, you will have unlimited success. It will just keep growing for you. And that's an exciting part of what I want to talk to you about today. Thanks for engaging. I see a bunch of people still engaging in the chat. That's awesome. Do that. Let people know who you are. 2 or 3 words is always a really good way to put it into the chat about, here's what we do. Okay, so let's get rocking and rolling on finding those top teaming partners. Today's training, I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. First, I just want to talk about the value of having written teaming criteria. This is writing down what you want from a teaming partner. I've been in software and IT for a long time, and I used to see customers come over and try to evaluate like some piece of software we had or some product we were reselling, and they wouldn't have a written set of criteria. I'm like, well, how are you going from vendor to vendor to vendor and fairly, even for your own sake, not just for our sake, fairly evaluating the features? Or are you just getting excited by whichever salesperson can point out features that you might like, right? Anyways, having that written criteria is really important. By the way, somebody just reminded me, Humberto, do me a favor, put Teaming Rocks into the chat if you believe in teaming. If you believe in teaming, and that's what you want to hear about today, put Teaming Rocks. I want a whole bunch of Teaming Rocks across LinkedIn. So people are like, what's that? I got to go join that training. All right, the second thing we're going to talk about, second and third are going to be demos, but one is how to find incumbents within an agency. So I call them agency level incumbents. That means incumbent basically means companies that are winning at the target agency that you're going to. So if you're looking at future opportunities, you might want to find teaming partners in the existing agency. And the third thing I'm going to cover down is how do you find teaming partners that have complementary services? And we call these complementary companies, but they have complementary services or products. If I'm trying to sell B and A and B, but I also need C, well, how do I find the companies that have C? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about it, and then I'm going to walk you through some demos. So that's what we're going to rock through. If you're excited about that, put Teaming Rocks into the chat. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, co-founder of GovCon in a Box. I don't know what I went like that for. I'm in a good mood today, apparently. It's just a really nice day out there. I've been walking more. I'm getting my energy. So you got to forgive me for coming at this with a lot of fun. Anyways, co-founder of GovCon in a Box, I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner after I got out of the Army. And since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. If you haven't connected with me already on LinkedIn, definitely connect with me or follow me. Like if you come to my profile, you click on the follow. Make sure you hit the bell notification and say, see all my content that I put out there, my posts and my videos, trainings, etc. You can always unfollow, but for the most part, if you're in the federal market, you'll like what I share because I share what I wish was shared with me when I was a government contractor. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the Government Contracting Success newsletter. This newsletter is focused on things that can help you in the government contracting space. I'm super excited. We just passed 23,000 subscribers recently. I'm sure we'll be at 24 before I get a chance to put something out there that celebrates it. But the type of content, let me see actually if I can show you really quick. Oh, good. I have it open. So this thing here is the newsletter I put out today. And it's, you like my AI picture? AI is good for something. It's like, give me a picture. But I wrote an article in here that walks you step by step through the process of joining NavAir or Naval Air. Oh, that's supposed to say Naval, not Navy. Oh, I know why it's Navy. It's Navy because I ran out of characters. But Naval Air Systems Command or NavAir, they have a supplier portal. So make sure you get in there and register. But that's an example of some stuff I put out on the newsletter. And then the other thing I wanted to point out, let me see if I can zoom myself in a little bit. Tomorrow's training is how to help federal buyers find your company. This is hugely important. I'm working with a customer today, and in a 2-hour period, I'm joining. There's going to be like 5 people in there, and we're going to register in 100 different supplier portals. This is a repetitive task. Get into a supplier portal. It doesn't mean you're going to get a contract, but it does mean if you're in there, you have an increased chance of being found. In fact, I would say 100% more chance than the person who's not in there. That's why I did Naval Air Command as well. So go ahead and register in there so that, or register for tomorrow's training. Hey, I just wanted to congratulate the companies that are in the 100 Club. If you haven't checked it out, go to govconinAbox.com. This just tells you how visible you are. I'll talk more about it tomorrow, but I did want to congratulate Magenti IT, if I say that correctly. They just hit the 100 Club since last week, and just want to congratulate them on doing that. Okay, let's talk about the value of a written teaming criteria. What I mean by this, just to make it really obvious, written criteria means you write down what you want from a teaming partner, right? That's what I mean when I say written criteria. If you write it down, then what you look for will actually work. When that stuff, if you write it down, you'll be able to go find teaming partners that match it. And this is really important because it clarifies what you actually need, right? You sit there and say to yourself, well, I need a teaming partner who can do this type of work. Like, let's say there's 10 task areas and you're looking for a teaming partner who can do this task area, that has this contract vehicle, that has this set aside, et cetera. When you write it down and you're clarifying what you actually need, now you're following a process. And if you don't know this, process has maturity levels, 0 through 5. 0 being you don't even have any clue, which you just kind of make it up as you go along. And 1, you have a process in your head, but not everybody follows the same process, and you don't follow it exactly the same way, and it's certainly not written down. Well, as you mature, right, up to level 5, your processes are, you're enabling yourself to be more and more successful in your process. My point for that is to say, when you write it down and you clarify what you need from a teaming partner, that's process maturity. You're really beginning to make sure your company and your opportunities are moving forward the same way. The next one is another value of having your criteria written down for teaming partners is that it avoids you working just with people you're familiar with or that you have friendships with. This is my all-time favorite one to kind of knock on is I've worked with customers over the years, especially larger companies. People get into this habit or this comfort zone and go, well, I know Tom or I know Jane. I'm just going to go to those two on every single opportunity. It's like, why? Well, we're really good friends, we've always kind of been working with them. Right. But why? I'm not knocking them. I'm not saying you shouldn't still go out and have lunch with them or something. But teaming is about a single opportunity. Teaming is about, I have this opportunity I'm going after, and here are the 7 task areas. We are strong on these 5. We need teaming partners who can cover down on these 2. I'm not looking at teaming automatically with Tom or Jane. What I'm saying is I have these 2 criteria or these 2 task areas that need to be covered down. Can Tom's company do it? Can Jane's company do it? But first thing I do is to write down that criteria. And when I do and I follow that process to go look for teaming partners, I'm making sure I'm not just going back to people who really aren't going to strengthen the proposal, right? And that's that third bullet. I'm looking for firms that can strengthen my proposal. They can come in and not only go, oh yeah, I can cover down, but they bring 3 strong past performances. Even if I can't use their past performances in the past performance written or formal section, I can weave their past performances into our narrative, our technical approach, where I'm saying, hey, you should do this for task area 6. And by the way, our teaming partner, blah, 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 done it here. So I can showcase their past performance, even if I can't count it as an official past performance. And that's what a strong teaming partner does. They help you strengthen your proposal. So that's really important. And it begins with you having a criteria. So how do you get the criteria and begin to understand what you're looking for? There's 2 ways to do it, right? On the acquisition approach, those are basically just a bunch of decision points you have to look at and decide. For example, what set aside it is, what contract vehicle, what agency it's in, and do you have experience in that agency? An example is if I'm an SDVO, I might look for teaming partners that are SDVOs as well if the opportunity is big enough, because I can pull them into my prime 51% and reserve 49% for other teaming partners who are not SDVOs, like a large, for example. And so this is really important that you understand the acquisition details you need. I use a requirement gap analysis when I'm looking at a requirement document, performance work statement, et cetera. I look in there and I shred that requirement document looking for explicit and implied requirements, right? Main task areas and subordinate task areas in there. If you're a GovCon in a box subscriber, then you know we've got the RGA tool out there that is basically automating that process for you. But if you're not, you can just use a spreadsheet like I used to do, where I would look at it and I'd shred it into a spreadsheet, and then I would score it on a scale of 1 to 5. But you can't get a score of 3 or 4 or 5 unless you also have related 1, 2, or 3 past performances that are directly related to that task area. When you score yourself at a sub-task area and then a task area, and you kind of roll those things up, you really understand where you're strong and where you're weak. And then those weak areas are where you go look for teaming partners. You don't send the teaming partners, hey, here's 7 task areas, because you don't need them coming back talking about the areas that you've got fully covered. You only want to send out the task areas that you're weak on and go, prove to me you're strong enough to add to my team here. It's not an arrogance thing or I'm being mean because I'm not going to let you on my team. It's like, you don't even want to be on my team. If you can't add value to this opportunity, you would just join a team that would lose. But if you look for areas where you're strong and you go join a team, now you're joining winning opportunities, et cetera. I also use this last step here is a teaming worksheet. I've had this as a handout before. It certainly you find it out there. But the idea of a teaming worksheet is, before I talk to any teaming partner, I write down exactly what I'm looking for. It basically is a single page sheet with some check boxes like, what am I looking for in a small business designation, if any? Am I looking for anything on the contract vehicle or the NAICS code? Or am I looking for agency experience? Am I looking for certain size contract past performances? All those kind of details. And then task areas, obviously, right? And I have them written down. It's pretty simple, more of a form that I fill in. And then I send that form to potential teaming partners. Hey, Tim, I'm looking to go after this opportunity. This is what I'm looking for. Can you cover down on it? Right? And this is all normal. If I've got teaming partners that I've worked with 5 times before, it doesn't mean I'm going to work with them the 6th time. But it also doesn't mean I'm not going to come back to them on the 7th and 8th time. I only want to work with them, and they should only want to work with me when we can really double down and add value to each other in that opportunity. Okay, just because it's fun and I saw Charles just put it, if you're following along with what I'm saying, put process rocks, right? Let me know you understand that finding teaming partners should not be something you just do ad hoc. You should not team with people you just really like. That's totally cool. Have lunch with them. You should team only with people that they can add value to your opportunity to increase it. And you should be thinking that same way. When you get on a team, how am I adding value to that other company? I want to work with them, but am I adding value and helping them win? All right, so there's two areas I want to cover down on. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to show you how to find agency incumbents, basically winners that are inside of an agency. And when you think about that, and the next one is going to be how to find complementary service firms. But the first one is make sure you use that written criteria. Like I said, if I'm going to go into FPDS, I might already have that teaming worksheet with me. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking for agencies, or I might even try to be finding a contracting officer. or NAICS code, you can figure out what you're looking for from an incumbent in there. An example of a situation I've run into a lot is where I want to go after a Navy opportunity in software development, and you need to have somebody who's got experience doing software development in the Navy because they understand how to take software from what they call onshore or on the bases to offshore, or not offshore, but afloat, I think they call it. And afloat is on a ship, right? And so that ability to go back and forth, that's different than what I ever did in my last company. I never really supported the Navy much there, but the Air Force, the Army, anybody who's got their boots on the ground, I did. But you're sitting on water, that's a different angle, right? And so that's really important. I'm going to do this in FPDS. So let's pop over there really quick. I just want to show you fairly quickly how I go in and look at this. If you haven't been to FPDS, this is the home screen. I don't do anything with it. I just hit enter on that little Google search. And then I come over here and I'm looking for an advanced search. And so in here, I'm going to add some fields that I want to search on. First off, I'm looking for a company that has a current contract or fairly current. And so the field I'm just choosing to use, you can use multiple fields, but the one I liked, I just came up with it at this moment, is I'm looking for a company that is actually, let's just say it's got a contract from that's not expiring. So there you go, 5/7. And here I'll just type it in to say, just for the sake of it, 5/7/2027. Let me just start there for 1 second. Hey, what did I do wrong? Oh, because I got all this junk. Okay, so now I got 843,000 companies or contracts out there. So now I'm going to filter it a little more. Actually, let me cancel that. I'm going to filter it just by zooming in. So I can do some of this just by zooming in. If I come over here, I know that I'm going to go after, let's just stick with the Navy for a second. So I'm going to say Navy. And when I did that, I went from 800,000 down to 92,000. And I can keep digging farther in here. I might do one more search just to show you, like, let's say description. So the description of the requirement, flank. I haven't done this before, so hold on. I'm doing something live that I shouldn't be doing. Flank speed is basically where SharePoint is. So I'm trying to see. There we go. So there's 4 opportunities. This is perfect because it's small enough at the moment. I'm looking to do something around SharePoint. That was my last company. And so I'm looking for firms. And I came in here and I can instantly see some of the companies. So Booz Allen's in there, Dell. That's funny. All the companies are big. That's disappointing. I'll try one more thing here. SharePoint. Let's see if it gets bigger. There's 8 here. And so let's just try these guys, these first ones. Come on. And while that's happening, I'll look down. There's another one. I don't know who this contractor support service is, but I feel like it's, I feel like whatever that is disappointing, that all the contracts go to this one company. That'd be an interesting thing. But I can see that it's a small business, right? So right here, I can see it's a small business. What I want to see is the work. So here, how ironic is this? If you've been here since the beginning, I told the story about doing enterprise architecture, but this is exactly the type of incumbent I might try to find. You know, hey, I'm going to go after opportunities. I'd love to team up with you. So now I can find this company right here, Contractor Support Services. I can grab their information. If I go over here to GovCon in a Box, I don't know if you're familiar with our tool, but go to govconinAbox.com and I can say search companies, put that company in here. There they are, 27. Look at this. This is something I'm trying to change. This company's got a lot of good experience, but it looks like it's not showing up at the moment. But anyways, I can go find this person and I can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm trying to go after an opportunity. Can we team together? So that's a great way to do that. Let me just pause and come back here 1 second. So if I'm looking for incumbent firms at an agency, and all I mean by incumbent is that you've won at an agency I'm trying to get into, I could have kept going down further. Actually, let me show you one more thing. I don't want to run out of time, but I do want to show you this little tip. So if I came in here, like I liked this guy, but here's this person, Victoria, and I don't know if this is going to work, but let me try this. Let me come back here to prepared. And let me type this in. No, so I can't do it. I download all this data and we do this for our customers so I can see all this information. But my point is I could download a ton of information and then I could say, well, find me all the opportunities where Victoria here is the contracting officer. And I can see that this was awarded on Seaport Next Gen because of the way they do the email, but I could find this. And when I do, now I'll find a bunch more firms besides just this contractor support services. I love that name. It's pretty good. Okay, so let me come back here really quick, go to the last slide. Oh, actually, before I go to the last slide, let me just thank the sponsors for our LinkedIn Lives here. These trainings, they're done by us. They're not done by the SBA or the government or anybody like that. They're done by me and my team, right? And but these sponsors are helping us make it happen. Graham, who does staffing and ASL services, that's American Sign Language services. Steel Toe, they do cybersecurity and CMMC, especially if you're looking in DoD and trying to go that CMMC route, talk to them. And then Silk River Capital, if you're looking for loans, they specialize on the GovCon space. So thank you to our sponsors. If you're trying to reach the small business community and you're interested in sponsoring, just reach out to me and I can talk to you more about it. Okay, so I got 4 minutes. I'm pushing pretty fast here, but just here's how do you search for complementary companies? So I talked about how do you find companies in FPDS that are just winning? That's all they're doing is winning. You don't necessarily know if they're complementary. In fact, I searched SharePoint, so it's kind of exactly the same. But here, what I want you to do is to understand what is complementary to what you sell. The most important thing you have to do before you start that task is to know what you sell. It has to be niched down. I sold Microsoft SharePoint. So SharePoint is part of Office 365, which is part of the broader Microsoft stack of products, et cetera, which is part of software development and then IT services, et cetera, right? It keeps going out. You need to niche down. And when you niche down to something like SharePoint, then I'm able to look at network engineering and say, I think those people, anybody who's doing network engineering and has got experience, they'll probably be in the program offices that I would love to knock on their doors. Same thing with Zero Trust, that's cybersecurity type thing. I was doing Zero Trust before it became a buzzword out there. And then another one is like business process improvement. So two of them are IT, but business process improvement. I can look for people who are winning those type of contracts, and maybe they're process engineer type people and less automation. And for us, we're kind of both, but we can talk to the technology side, maybe how we can use AI and SharePoint to do that. I already showed you briefly, but I'll just show you really quick how I would go in. So I'm looking at just GovCon in a box, looking at the company browser. I might come here and say, I'm looking for companies that have experience and just the keyword search. I might say, let's try actually exact phrase. So business process. I'll just start with business process because I'm running out of time here. But if I search for business process, I just found 809 companies that have experience in that business process. And so I might look in here and I could filter it down more. And if I think about it, I might filter it and say, look, I'm a woman-owned small business. Let me find a woman-owned small business that's there. So I went from 800 down to 150. That's perfect. And you can do the same thing, right? You can begin to pull it in. I'm looking at Emerson Human Capital here, who's got a score of 100. I'm like, okay, maybe I knock on their doors because they seem kind of process driven already with their own stuff. But it took me 2 minutes to find a list of potential teaming partners. Imagine if I spent 30 or 60 minutes, I will have a good list there that enables me to focus on those people. Okay, here's what I want you to remember, and I definitely am running out of time. I got like 0 minutes left. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First off, we're all competimates. Sometimes we are subbing, sometimes we're priming, but it's not a zero-sum game. There's enough room for all of us. The second thing is make sure when you're doing teaming that you're looking for teaming partners based on written criteria. And the third thing is always be teaming. Unless that's a $3,000 contract, always be considering how you can engage somebody in. That'll work well for you down the road and people will really appreciate it. All right, I'm out of time. So last thing I just want you to remember is that like all this teaming stuff I just taught you, it's a process, right? Government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training. Hope you found value. If you did, say process rocks in the chat on your way out.